The support meta does look to be in line for a big shakeup this patch, as there are a ton of item and rune changes specific to the role, and it's actually a pretty item and rune heavy patch in general, with 14 different items and runes being adjusted, along with just 9 champion changes. So we're going to be providing you guys with a complete update on everything that we can expect to hit live servers this upcoming Wednesday, May 27th. So we are going to be starting off by covering all the item and rune changes, and first up is a buff to Aftershock. A buff across the board to many melee supports, as the base bonus resist on proc is going to go up from 35 to 45. The bonus armor and magic resist scaling is getting just a little bit of a nerf though, going down from 80 to 75%. An indirect buff to Braum, Rakan, and Renata is going through, with Guardian having its cooldown lowered from 90 scaling to 40 seconds to 75 scaling to 40 seconds. The shield amount is being changed from 45 scaling to 180 to 40 scaling to 150. AP ratio is down from 25 to 20%, and bonus health ratio is going up from 5 to 6%. Heartsteel is going to be buffed so that the passive proc damage to health conversion is being increased from 8% of damage dealt to 10% of damage dealt. Knight's Vow is on the buff list, which is honestly pretty crazy because Knight's Vow has already been one of the strongest yet underrated support items. The passive damage redirect is going up from 12 to 14%, while the heal is being increased from 10 to 12%. We've got a straight stat buff to Locket for 26.11, as its armor and magic resist are both being increased from 25 to 30. We have a small quality of life buff to Zeke's Convergence on the way, so that after you cast your ultimate, the passive is now going to wait up to 5 seconds for a valid enemy to be close enough before you start triggering the passive. The support item upgrade Dreammaker is going to be nerfed, with its bonus damage going down from 50 scaling to 170, triggering on hit to 40 scaling to 160, but triggering on damaging attack or ability with AoE reduction for AoE triggers like Nami's E. Damage reduction is going to be reduced from 75 scaling to 255, only affecting the first instance of damage to 50 scaling to 194, but now blocking the entire first damaging spell. Riot has a nerf lined up for Echoes of Helia, as its passive damage stored is going down from 35 to 30%. There's a nerf to Moonstone Renewer being issued so that the Starlight Grace passive unique effect no longer double dips in heal and shield power and grievous wounds. We've got a nerf to Aerie on the way, as its base shield is going down from 30 scaling to 100 to 20 scaling to 100. Void Grubs are going to receive a buff for this patch, as the structural dot damage is up from 3 scaling to 12 to 4 scaling to 16 for melee, and from 1.5 scaling to 6 to 2 scaling to 8 for ranged. Summoned Grub health is now going to be 100% of a melee minion's health instead of 60%. There is a nerf to Experimental Hexplate for ranged champions only though, as the attack speed on passive is down from 50 to 35%, while movement speed is dropping from 20 to 14%. Imperial Mandate is getting a huge rework for 26.11, so that it's no longer going to be an item that's only tied to Nami. Nami actually is most likely going to drop the item completely, because the way in which you proc the passive, it's totally being changed. To proc the passive, you're now going to need to immobilize enemy champions, and it'll then gain 6% increased damage. When you immobilize a target, you're also going to be granted 15 ability haste. There's a new recipe for the item, so that it now has a blasting wand, Bandoglass mirror, and 700 gold required to complete it, for a total cost of 2,400. AP is going to go up from 60 to 65, ability haste is dropping from 20 to 15, and then mana regen is going to go up from 125 to 150%. So because the passive now is going to require you to immobilize a target to gain the effects, it's not going to work with Nami's slow from her E, since it doesn't count as an immobilizing effect. Now, if any of you listening to this were unaware of it, immobilizing effects are the things that prevent enemies from being able to issue movement commands and use movement spells. So the full list consists of Airborne, Berserk, Charm, Flee, Taunt, Root, Sleep, Stasis, Stun, and Suppression. So, to be clear, a slow is not an immobilizing effect, and therefore Mandate is likely dead on Nami. Static Shiv is going to receive a buff, with its AD being increased from 40 to 45, and so for this patch there is going to be a change to Deathfire Touch being issued, so that it now deals magic damage. This means that you're no longer going to be able to stack up Black Cleaver's passive from the burn damage, so we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on whether the rune is going to remain viable for champions like Smolder and Senna. There is actually a good chance Deathfire does remain a solid choice on Smolder, but he just goes back to his previous core build of Essence Reaver into Shojin and drops Cleaver completely. Diana Jungle was one of the most broken champs to start the season, but has definitely fallen off as of late. So Riot's going to be buffing her clear speed, with passive monster damage going from 230 to 270%. W bonus health ratio is buffed as well, going from 9 to 11%. Very much like Diana, Echo was an OP tier jungler to start the year, but has fallen off since, so he's getting a passive cooldown buff, as the per target cooldown is dropping from 5 to 4 seconds. So with the recent minion change that Riot added to the game, it's made Heimerdinger's turrets a lot less reliable, and Riot is going to be buffing the range on his turrets to help him out, as they're going to go from 530 to 550 range. However, the range is up from 530 to 580 against minions, and then E-Vision duration is going to go up to from 1 to 1.25 seconds. Kassadin has been one of the more struggling mid laners in recent patches, so a few buffs are going to be headed his way, with Q cooldown being reduced from 10 scaling to 8 seconds to 9 scaling to 7 seconds. W passive base damage is going up from 20 to 25. Quinn Jungle got buffed last patch, but has been performing as a 42% win rate champion, so Riot does have a few more buffs in store, as passive monster damage is going up from 50 to 75, and Q monster damage is being increased from 150 to 200%. Brand is going to be on the nerf list, as his base armor is going to be dropping from 27 to 24. This particular change is trying to target bot lane Brand, who's been super OP as of recent, but it's definitely going to negatively impact support as well. 2 more Smolder nerfs are on the way, with his passive bonus magic damage on Q being reduced from 40 scaling to 60% of your passive stacks to 25 scaling to 55% of passive stacks. Passive bonus magic damage on E is going to go from 12% of your passive stacks to 8 scaling to 12% of your passive stacks. Teemo has been in our OP tier since the Static Shiv rework, so Riot does have a few nerfs lined up for him in 26.11. Armor growth is going to be dropping from 4.95 to 4.5. E on-hit bonus AD ratio is going to be lowered from 10 to 5%, and then E poison bonus AD ratio is dropping from 20 to 10%. AP Xin Xiao has been gaining a lot of traction over the last patch, so Riot does have a few adjustments on the way, as his passive heal AP ratio is going from 50 scaling to 90% to 45 scaling to 80%. There is a compensation buff being issued though, with the passive damage now having an AP ratio worth 5 scaling to 20% AP. So it does look like Riot wants to keep AP Xin Xiao in the game, they just don't want him healing quite as much as he is right now. But hey, while videos like these that we just went through give you insights on what to play, our brand new Season 16 Essentials course for every role teaches you how to win. Each of them designed to walk you through every stage of the game from start to finish, from the exact trading and recall timers that you need to win lane, to the mid-game macro decisions that 99% of players on the internet just get completely wrong, all the way to the team fighting tips and tricks challengers abuse to always deal the highest damage possible. Whether you're a top laner in the most unfavorable matchup in all of League history, a mid laner having to deal with everybody in your lane 24/7, a jungler trying to balance ganking and farming, an ADC stuck trying to hard carry with a support who just exists to grief you, or maybe a support that's struggling to carry games on your own. Our Essentials courses are tailor-made to focus on the exact concepts that actually matter for climbing, on your role in your elo. Check them out today, completely risk-free, using the link in the pinned comment or description below, as if you don't climb at least 5 divisions, you get every penny back. So that is going to wrap everything up for the 26.11 changes, as we can expect for all of this to hit live servers on Wednesday, May 27th. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.